Well, even though it's impossible for any of us to tell because none of us go outside anymore and nothing really matters, it is the beginning of June, which means it is Pride Month. In honor of Pride, and just because it's something that's worth talking about, I wanted to discuss how I handle diversity in my writing. Now, when I say diversity, I'm going to be specific. I'm talking about basically any character who is not a straight, white, cisgendered male. And my rule of thumb is simple. If I don't have a character who needs to be a straight, white, cisgendered male, they don't need to be. Now, for some characters, it just makes the most sense, or it's the most dramatically appropriate, or it serves or establishes their character best, or it's good shorthand. And for those characters, yeah, sure, straight, white, cisgendered male. Why not? But I also have to acknowledge the elephant in the room is that I am a straight, white, cisgendered male, and I have been the target demographic for all of Western fiction for the past couple hundred years at minimum. And it's boring, and I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. I'm bored. It's boring. And it's overkill. Like, all we needed was, like, Luke Skywalker, King Arthur, John McClane. I would have been perfectly happy with just 3 characters who looked and had my life experience and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why I said King Arthur and then life experience, or John McClane. But the point is, we didn't also need Robin Hood and Superman and Spider-Man and Batman and, characters who aren't superheroes. I can come up with more characters who aren't superheroes. Neo? No. This is something I feel very strongly about, and I try to handle it as respectfully as I can. As somebody who is not in any way a minority, I understand that I am coming from a different perspective than the characters that I'm writing from, and that is something that I need to be very conscious of when I write. For a while, the main character in the Wizard novel was going to be transgender, and I realized, before I started actually drafting, but very late in the outlining process, that it was not the right choice narratively. The Wizard novel pulls a lot of influence from things like My Fair Lady. It's about somebody who is infiltrating a society that they are not ordinarily a part of, that they don't belong to, and they don't belong in. I did not want to make that character transgender, because then it seems like I am saying something about whether or not transgender people belong in fantasy societies, and even though that wasn't the reason why that person wouldn't be accepted, that would be context, subtext, or unintentional connotations. It would also make it a trans story. If I'm telling a story about a transgender person who's the lead of something like Speed, there's no problem there. There's no reason why that character couldn't be transgender. But if you're doing a story about who belongs in what society, then you need to handle it respectfully. And you need to be aware of the connotations. And in that case, the connotations were, hey, this would be interpreted, probably rightly so, as some sort of commentary on how transgender people are treated. Now it is a transgendered story. Now it is a story that should be told by someone who has that perspective. Because the stuff I write is fantasy, science fiction, escapism, adventure stories, or this homage to those genres, I feel like for some characters, it's worthwhile adding the diversity and not commenting on it. For example, if I were writing a character like Black Panther, I would not be the right person to write that story. A character like Miles Morales, arguably, depending how much his race is a part of that story, it's a factor, but it's not the main point of the story. And someone like Rhodey, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, I could write a War Machine story, and it wouldn't necessarily need to be about that because it's the context around that character. I'm not actually writing Marvel characters. I'm just using them as an example. But the superhero novel I'm writing, the main character is biracial, and she is a lesbian. I am neither of those things, but those are very much there to tell a story about that character, and I think they do add some nice perspective. I also have the advantage I know more people from those groups and from those minorities, and I feel like I can speak a little bit more comfortably around those. Writing a transgender character in a story about who belongs in what society, I don't love me being the person writing that. And also it's because I don't know that many transgender people. I don't know how many people I can talk to about that and say, hey, what do you think of this story? Am I on the right track? I know a few, but no one is going to be able to speak for their entire culture, and I don't think I'm a strong enough writer at this point in my career to write that story, as is. The main character of the superhero novel, since they are biracial and not straight, they're lesbian, I feel like it is a different thing because I'm trying to say something about something I know a lot about, which is superheroes and supervillains and that world, and commenting on those things through a lens that I feel pretty comfortable addressing. Now, the elephant in the room, that is not going to be okay with everyone, and I totally get that. Some people, and very justifiably, believe that I made the right call on not writing the transgender character, and I made the wrong call on writing a lesbian or someone who is biracial. And their feeling on that subject would be, stay in your lane, write what you know, write from your own experience. I understand that. I cannot change their minds necessarily. I also know there's some people out there who think I made the wrong call on the transgender character, and they're going to say things like, well, it shouldn't matter, who the character is or any of that stuff. As long as it's right for the story, it shouldn't matter who's writing it, and that stuff shouldn't matter. And I disagree. I think that if a story is told particularly well, it doesn't matter who's writing it to a point, but depending on the story, I think it really does. I mean, the reason I have my rule, no straight white male main characters unless absolutely necessary, is that I can't do anything about the fact that I am a straight white man, but I can do something about the stuff I put out in the world. There's enough stuff out there for me as the only target audience, or the primary target audience, or whatever. I have been sold to sufficiently, and I'm on board with other characters. I am ready for more characters. I can't change my own background or affect any of that, but I can affect what I put out into the world. And I can try to say, hey, these are some really nerdy genres that have historically been pretty exclusive, and I would like to say that's not okay. They shouldn't be exclusive, and represent more people. My feeling on diversity is this: if you are not diverse, it is your job to do whatever you can to make people who are diverse, people who are part of minorities, feel welcomed into spaces that have historically not welcomed them. The way I see it, nobody needs me to open the door for them. Nobody needs me to say it is okay for you to be a part of superhero stories or a part of fantasy stories. That should not be necessary. But there are people out there who do not look and sound and act exactly like me, who haven't had my lifestyle, and who come to these spaces and feel shut out. And that sucks. So if anyone ends up reading my stuff, if I ever get published, and if my stuff ever gives anyone the confidence to say, yes, I belong in these spaces, that is all I can hope for, and truly I hope that is the case. Again, this is a loaded conversation. I totally respect if people do not think that I am making the right decision there. Specifically, if they think I should not be writing about characters who are not like myself, get it. I don't begrudge you those feelings. I don't agree, but I get where you're coming from. I was really worried about that, actually, and I remember watching a video by Dal Cecil Runo who talked about the response to the stay in your lane criticism. Dal's point was, if it's well written, it shouldn't matter who the author is as long as it's done with respect. Now, I know for a fact that not every person who is biracial or not every lesbian is going to read my superhero story. First of all, that could just be the end of that sentence. I don't know if anyone's ever going to read it. I did finish my current draft right after I lost my job, so now it is actually out to a couple of beta readers, so people are actually reading the superhero novel, which is exciting. But I know there are going to be people out there who identify with the main character, but don't think I've accurately represented their life. That's fine. I don't intend to represent everybody's life. I can't. No one can. I hope that somebody does respond to those characters and enjoy those characters. It won't be everyone. I'm very aware of that, but it will be someone. I hope. And, if you think I may have done a bad job with the writing, then I encourage you to read it. Let me know. I am looking for critique partners. I'm looking for beta readers. So if you want to read the novel and let me know, did I actually do a terrible job at it? Hit me up. I'm not kidding. I am looking for readers. And if you think that you would not have read this if you think you would have seen the name Christensen on a book about a biracial person and thought, that's a mistake. Or a female lead with a male writer's name, and you're thinking that's not the right decision. I totally get it. I would love for you to read it and let me know if I'm barking up the wrong tree, if I goofed up real bad. Hit me up in the comments, let's chat. Or DM me on Twitter, because, for real, I'm there, let's talk. Super Geek Mike on Twitter. But that's it for me. That's going to do it for me today. That is how I handle diversity. If you are comfortable talking about it, please sound off the same, either in the comments or in a video of your own, and let's talk about how to handle diversity. Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? Is it case by case? Let's chat. Also, let me know if you want to read my novel, even if you have absolutely no feelings about diversity. Let me know if you'd like to read it. Hit me up. The comment section is a great place for all of that action. If you like this video or have liked any of the other videos on my channel, subscribe, and you can see more of them more often or easily, or just that's how subscribing works. You know the deal. I love you, Victoria.